90.7 KPFK, Los Angeles.
The following radio program has been approved for broadcast by the Federal Communications Commission and is in compliance with all community standards. Thank you.
From Los Angeles,
The Cary Files. Crack the code and break the lock. Racing shadows round the clock. We're the ones to find the truth for all the lost and hurtless youth. Yeah, we'll find the truth. The Cary Files.
So let's talk about the grand spectacle currently being sold to you by a late night miracle tonic, the majestic, patriotic, absolutely bulletproof idea of a war with Iran. We got some calls the other week, wasn't it? Just blow them up. And this is from a Persian. Just blow them up. Yeah. And then there was no and then. It was just blow them up. So here we are, a masterpiece in lipstick and a borrowed tuxedo, if you want to think of it that way, the sort of visionary policy that only a really stable genius and the courtiers surrounding our leadership could dream up while polishing their medals and adjusting their bolo neckties in the mirror. You know, you got to admire the elegance of it. Wars used to be messy affairs. There was mud, there was blood, public debate, that kind of nuisance. My grandfather fought in World War I, spent months in trenches, surrounded by typhus, dead horses for a mile. But now it's streamlined, it's digitized, it's monetized. A sleek, modern product where missiles fly, defense contractors grin like lottery winners, and the bill slides quietly across the table to you like the check after a long, boozy dinner. And according to the bean counters over at the Institute for Policy Studies, who apparently had the audacity to add the numbers instead of waving flags, just running aircraft and ships in the region, just running aircraft and the ships cost $59 million every single day. It's exciting. That's right. While you're trying to decide whether eggs or gasoline is going to wreck your budget first, Washington's, see, now we can pronounce it that way and it means something. Washington's running a geopolitical strip club where the jets dance, the destroyers twirl, and the meter never stops ticking. You have to appreciate this satirical bent because this is exactly how it's been playing out on TV with our leadership wearing a white baseball cap that says USA on it, the same one he's selling as merchandise for his campaigns. You can click on it and go and buy hats, the ones that he's modeling, product placement, while dead U.S. soldiers come in coffins. Do people see this? I mean, seriously, $59 million a day just to keep the engines humming. That has nothing to do with the rest of the cost of this war, which in the beginning was $1 billion a day, $1 billion. And your country is so bankrupt, you're not even allowed to have a Department of Education that functions. You're not even allowed to have anything, Medicare, Social Security on the way out, all of it. Your country is so bankrupt, but there are billions for, an at-will war where you don't even consult Congress. Don't even do it. Don't even attempt to make it look that way. Not even counting the fireworks, the bombs, the missiles, the fancy little interceptors that cost more than the average neighborhood. That's what's adding up on a daily basis. Because nothing says fiscal responsibility quite like lightning stacks of cash on fire. Yeah, immolating them while it's so perverse. Lighting stacks of cash on fire while simultaneously telling millions of Americans that they just might have to tighten their belts. Preferably, around an empty stomach, right? Just tighten that belt around your empty stomach because we've got a good war to prosecute. You see, that same pile of daily war money, it could cover Medicaid costs for millions of people or food assistance for nearly 10 million people. But instead, it's being converted into sonic booms over the Persian Gulf. Now, the strategic sales pitch floating around the diplomatic grapevine, voiced by analysts and commentators watching this soap opera unfold, it goes something like this. The real magic trick is nudging Arab countries into a direct showdown with Iran. Think about that. Let the neighbors duke it out. Let rival powers grind each other down. Meanwhile, the United States supervises the whole bar fight like a bartender selling expensive drinks to both sides while sliding intelligence briefings across the counter. It's elegant, huh? A geopolitical menage a trois where everybody swings, everybody spends, and somebody else picks up the tab. And if that leaves the region's biggest players exhausted while arms dealers rake in profits, well, that's just clever business. But the plot thickens faster than evaporating lube in an Epstein guest room. Critics argue that the war itself isn't just expensive, it's illegal. It's wildly unpopular and open-ended enough to stretch well into the fall, maybe longer, which means the meter itself keeps running. It keeps running. It keeps running. Meanwhile, the Pentagon, already lounging atop a $1 trillion budget, because this country is so bankrupt, somehow they got a $1 trillion budget. It's preparing to ask Congress for even more cash to replenish munitions. Because when you're burning through billion-dollar toys, you gotta restock the toy chest. It's the kind of economic strategy that would make a casino owner blush. And that's why today's guest is here. Hannah Homestead, a research analyst with the National Priorities Project at the Institute for Policy Studies. And she's been crunching the numbers behind the curtain, looking at why this war, what it actually costs, and what the money could do if it weren't being converted into airborne fireworks. So, Hannah, let's kick the tires on this global joyride together. Welcome to the Cary Harrison Files.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I wish it was under a little better circumstances, but I'm really glad to be here with you today.
I know, and I wish I could just be filled with gravitas about this, but it is such a perverse clown show that I think a reasonable proportion is possible. Now, Hannah Homestead, when you see that $59 million a day price tag just to operate military systems around Iran, what's the real total once bombs, missiles, troop deployments get added to the tab?
That is a great question, and the billion-dollar question, I guess we could say. As you had mentioned, we did try to calculate the costs of just the extra naval ships and aircraft that were moved into the region to participate in this illegal war and active aggression, and that came to about $60 million per day. And for that, we could be covering SNAP benefits for almost 10 million people just for the costs of the operations. And like you said, that's really just a sliver of the overall costs. Actually, just this week, the Pentagon released a new estimate that the total war effort right now is or the first 6 days of this illegal war was $11.3 billion. And honestly, again, this is with no end in sight. These costs are accumulating, and really, at the expense of everyday people and Americans, as you had mentioned. We know that they're cutting Medicaid, they're cutting SNAP, and so many programs that people rely on in this country and around the world. So this is truly where our taxpayers' money is going.
Hannah Homestead, you've spent years doing this bravely, in exhaustion and in nausea. So we'll just say it the way it is. How unusual is it for the public to know so little about the real costs while combat operations are already underway?
Well, it's certainly, unfortunately, not a new problem that we're having here. And thinking back even to the war in Iraq, that was estimated in the early days. Analysts put out, this will be a cakewalk. This will be a small operation. It will cost about $50 billion. And we know how that went, right? 2 decades of war, trillions of dollars. And again, the profiteers making out like bandits for that while our communities really suffered. So again, unfortunately right now, this is very reminiscent. The Trump administration has, said at first this will be a short operation. Then they said, maybe a few weeks. They talked about it maybe going through September now. And again, like you said, the costs are not transparent. What we do know is that this is, though, quite expensive, costing also financially, but also people's lives. Over 2,000 people in Iran have been killed, including 170 children at an elementary school that was targeted by a U.S. airstrikes, killed hundreds of children. So many civilians are dying. We have at least 8 service members killed. And of course, all of this is ecologically devastating as well in the time where we're dealing with climate crisis. So huge costs that we're just starting to be able to understand, but will last for decades.
Hannah Homestead, we saw in the beginning of this administration the firing of top military generals, people who had had careers for 30, 40 years, studying war, studying ramifications, if P, then Q, all gone. So the only people that have made the decisions, it seems, are cabinet members and not people who actually could figure out if you drop this bomb, people get upset, this happens for the next 3 generations of wanting to get back at you for it. So there doesn't seem to be that sort of thinking. We're told that the war is likely going to stretch on for a long time to come, maybe even September. So, quarter of a year, maybe longer. How quickly could the cost that you're outlining that does affect the average person listening or watching, how quickly could those costs explode beyond the early estimates that you've been able to release?
How'd it happen?
She showed up dead on arrival.
This never gets easier.
It does when you call CarShield before your car breaks down. Look at these prices. The camshaft, transmission, engine.
Don't people know? A plan through CarShield could protect up to 5,000 parts and systems.
You hate to see it.
An out-of-warranty car is going to break down eventually.
Right, which is why they need a plan through CarShield.
Best of all, you'll get access to CarShield's concierge service, who can even help you find a mechanic near you.
They're notifying the family.
Poor guy. He doesn't even know what's coming.
Another victim of senselessly expensive repair bills. Can't save them all.
But we can keep trying. Didn't have to end this way. If he'd have just called CarShield before his car broke down.
Exactly.
CarShield has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau and was voted America's most trusted auto protection company. It's time to call CarShield now. Call 800-786-8390. 800-786-8390. Call 800-786-8390.
It's very, very likely this will be astronomically expensive. Again, the costs of the Iran and Iraq wars were in the trillions of dollars. This could easily astronomically account for that much. The weaponry that's being used right now is more technologically advanced even than the weapons that were used during the global war on terror. So the cost to use them, the cost to replace them when they're lost, as we know, fighter jets have been shot down already, radar systems have been lost. All of this is just so expensive. Also, Iran is not Venezuela. Like you had mentioned, Trump was not. I don't want to go into the calculus on how they were making their decisions, but they very severely miscalculated. The formidable opposition that Iran was going to put up to this. They have thousands of ballistic missiles. Their defense industry is capable of making 10,000 drones per month. They have a lot of weaponry that they are going to use to fight us. And like you said, Trump was getting, advice from Jared Kushner on the strategy around this war, just completely ridiculous and completely unnecessary, putting so many people in harm's way, risking World War III, and again, at huge cost, at huge expense to our communities.
Cary Harrison with you. This is the Cary Harrison Files, CaryHarrison.com and GoHarrison.com. Live video streaming on YouTube, Substack, anything with a chip and a signal or a shortcut at kpfk.net. You can later listen as a podcast across every service. Simply Google Cary Harrison or the Cary Harrison Files. Our newsletter with a transcript of the entire show and the stuff we can't say in the radio is at Cary, Cary Harrison.com. goharrison.com or goharrison.com. We're talking right now about the escalating costs of the war with Iran, costs that analysts say are already running into the tens of millions of dollars every single day just to keep the aircraft and ships operating in the region. Hannah Homestead is a research analyst with the National Priorities Project at the Institute for Policy Studies, translating those numbers and what they mean for everyday Americans, costing around $59 million per day, with the full price tag expected to climb much higher once munitions, once deployments, once extended operations are fully accounted for. Hannah Homestead, so glad you're breaking this down for us. We have no alternative voices willing or able to do what you're doing for us today. Your analysis compares war spending to programs like Medicaid and SNAP, formerly known as food stamps. 30, 40 million people rely on this to literally eat food in the land of milk and honey here in E Pluribus Unum. Why is it important to frame the cost in terms of what Americans are losing domestically?
Yeah, Americans, we want our taxpayer dollars to be spent on supporting communities at home, making sure people at home are safe, have shelter, have food available, not bombing communities and families abroad again. And as you mentioned, the funding that could be and even used to be funding SNAP and Medicaid has been actually stripped out of the federal budget and given to the Pentagon. We saw last year, HR 1, the reconciliation bill, known as the Big Bad Bill, added $156 billion to the Pentagon, pushing the overall Pentagon budget to over $1 trillion. And at the same time, cutting out critical funding for SNAP and Medicaid. So we literally transferred that money from people's mouths, people's kitchen tables to the Pentagon in order to buy more weapons and munitions, in order to do these kinds of illegal wars that are just devastating for everyone involved. And like you mentioned earlier, the war in Iran is already costing, at least $1 billion a day, even more so now with the extra munitions estimates. But the Pentagon is actually going to go back to Congress and request even more money. They're requesting, we don't know the exact dollar figure yet, but somewhere maybe they've floated maybe in the $50 billion range. They want to ask for $50 billion more for funding to bomb Iran, even after, having $1 trillion budget and after all the cuts that have been made.
I wonder, Hannah Homestead, and it's hard to have the exact answers. I mean, you're doing what you're doing at your own peril, at your own risk, and with limited ways to actually see the monster, the hairy mastodon in the middle of the room. But what's the payoff to this? Nobody's been told yet why, except it's time to take out the bad guys. We have Lindsey Graham saying, yeah, we're going to go around the world now and just start murdering everyone we don't like, whoever we is. We don't get to vote. There's no plebiscite. There's no United Nations. There's no decision as to what a bad guy is, but just basically 4 guys, 5 guys, and their Congress as a companion have just decided this is what we're going to do. This is not the way we're supposed to be doing stuff in this country. I mean, Dickie Nixon tried it, a few others. They get busted. They have to dial back. There doesn't seem to be much pushback in the accountability department for what we're seing now.
Completely. It's very frustrating to see. This is an illegal war. Congress is supposed to declare war, or have the power to declare war. Congress has failed to assert itself, honestly, in this conflict. There were war powers resolutions that were introduced in Congress, which would limit the president's ability to continue this operation, and they were not passed. So not enough members of Congress asserted their authority and to say, hey, you can't just go around bombing people around the world without us saying so. So very, very, very disappointing. Our members of Congress are not representing what people want, which is, again, to have our taxpayers spent on our priorities at home and not on bombing communities abroad. The Trump administration hasn't laid out a very good or compelling reasons to launch this attack. We know the failed claim, the false claims about Iran having nuclear weapons are completely false. But we do know that, this is kind of a ham-handed a legal attempt to really assert U.S. dominance in the region, Israel's dominance in the region. This is joint U.S.-Israel operation. And again, it's completely out of touch with what most Americans want and need.
If the proposed $50 billion package, if that were redirected toward domestic programs here in the U.S. instead of military spending, what specific impacts do you think Americans could see in their healthcare, food security, insurance costs?
No, that's a great question. So the $50 billion supplemental, and again, we'll have to wait to see what they actually do introduce in Congress and the actual number. They've floated this number, but $50 billion package as of now is anticipated. So just that $50 billion alone could reverse a lot of the harms that were passed last year in the big bad bill. For one, it could extend the Affordable Care Act healthcare subsidies for a year that would save millions of families from devastating insurance premium increases. It could also, in addition, restore the annual SNAP benefits to 2.4 million people, and 2.4 million people per month are expected to lose their SNAP because of that big bad bill and the policy changes and work requirements that they added to it. It also could provide Medicaid services to nearly 2 million people just for the cost of this supplemental.
Hannah Homestead, I am not, I'm an English major, so math, I fail miserably. Even with a calculator, it is bungling on steroids. But I'm told that my country is bankrupt. We have no money. We have to take food away from children, from Mildred. She's got to live on little Friskies and ramen noodles for the rest of her natural life. And when she gets sick, she cannot afford medicine because we cannot afford to give her medicine. It's been stated as clearly as it could be. There is no money. This country it's bankrupt. It's in debt. There is no money, no matter what, none to be made, none more that can be printed. Yet it's saloon time with cowboys. And I'm just trying to reconcile that. Maybe you have some insight.
Yeah. The messaging is wild. It's wild. And, it's interesting. You hear Trump in his State of the Union address talking about how, more and more people are going to work. And if you look at what's the fastest growing demographic in the workforce currently, and it's people over the age of 75 years old. So it's elderly seniors who are forced to be trying to find a job, So, right, the priorities of this administration couldn't be more clear. But, there are people who are we see this as a huge loss to our country and our community. But there are people who are profiting from this, of course, Raytheon, for example, or RTX as it's known now, the stocks rose 5% in the first few days of this war. Wall Street is really cashing in. The defense industry, the Pentagon contractors are cashing in on this as they have in the past previous forever wars that we've been in. So we're seeing continued violence, continued wealth inequality growing, all of this completely out of touch with what most people bipartisan, across the political aisles want and want to see. And so, right, it's kind of up to all of us to continue to put pressure on our elected officials to course correct on this and to put our money. We want our money to be spent in our communities, not bombing communities abroad.
Yeah, this is the old butternut guns thing going back to the 60s, probably the 50s, probably forever, really. But it's just done so brazenly that I don't think people can see it for what it is anymore. Let's, Hannah Homestead, finally look at the trajectory of this conflict. What should Americans be paying attention to right now if they want to understand where this war and where the costs are heading?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And it's something, we're tracking closely. It's very, unfortunately, because it's active combat operations, it's very highly unpredictable. We know that the munitions costs are hugely expensive, but costs that will be added to this too are losses of U.S. military equipment, U.S. bases, things like that. One of these aircraft carriers floating around is, something like $8 billion. So if something like that gets taken out, that could completely, increase these costs a lot. We do know, though, that there will be long-term costs associated with this war in terms of veterans benefits that will be paid out, in terms of climate catastrophe that's going to be exacerbated and will be affecting all of us in all of our lives in different ways. So, there's the accounting costs, there's the human costs, there's the climate costs. All of it has the potential to really be exponentially really huge.
We're going to say bye-bye in just a second, but I want to pick your magnificent brain with what I think is the obvious question here. What's the point? What's the plot of the play? I mean, there's desire there because there's payoff. You don't just go do something. You don't pull wings off a fly unless you want to watch it squirm. It's not like you have literally nothing else to do. This took a little bit of planning, a little bit of planning. What's the plot of the play here?
Well, that's the $1 trillion question. If I could get in the minds of these folks, ultimately our government is really serving wealthy interests, serving Wall Street interests, and war is profitable for Wall Street. Unfortunately, it's even though, the effects of this are going to have hugely economic consequences as well. I didn't mention those. Of course, we know like the price of gas is already going up, and this is going to be, interfering with world trade and all sorts of other issues. But, ultimately, the people in power, as Aaron Bushnell said, this is what the people in power have determined is going to be normal. It's completely out of touch with what normal, everyday Americans think and want. So it really is the question about how do we get our elected officials and get our members of Congress to actually represent what people want. And it's not endless war. It's actually investment in our communities and things that make us safe, like SNAP, Medicaid, and other programs like that.
Hannah Homestead, how do we follow you and check out your work and stay up to date?
Well, thank you so much for having me on. And you can find our work at the National Priorities Project at nationalpriorities.org and also at the Institute for Policy Studies.
I appreciate it very much. Hannah Homestead is a research analyst with the National Priorities Project at the Institute for Policy Studies, translating the numbers you've heard into what they mean for everyday Americans, that we're spending we're not being asked, we're just being handed the bill for at least $59 million a day, with the full price tag expected to climb much higher once munitions deployments and extended operations are fully accounted for. So, you could reach out to your congressman or congresswoman if you felt like it. Coming up, stick around, because today we're peeling back the curtain on the most expensive fireworks show in modern politics and asking you whether the spectacle is really worth the smoke. Is it worth the noise? Is it worth the bill that eventually lands in your mailbox? We're going to open up the phones. We're going to hear what you have to say here on the Cary Harrison Files.
This pussy grabs back. The Cary Harrison Files. CaryHarrison.com.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? Well, you call low-cost airlines, because they specialize in cheap flights, in discount hotel rooms, in cheap car rentals, and with the best price guarantee. Often 75% off. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795.
How'd it happen?
She showed up dead on arrival.
This never gets easier.
It does when you call CarShield before your car breaks down. Look at these prices. The camshaft, transmission, engine.
Don't people know? A plan through CarShield could protect up to 5,000 parts and systems.
You hate to see it.
An out-of-warranty car is going to break down eventually.
Right, which is why they need a plan through CarShield.
Best of all, you'll get access to CarShield's concierge service, who can even help you find a mechanic near you.
They're notifying the family.
Poor guy. He doesn't even know what's coming.
Another victim of senselessly expensive repair bills. Can't save them all.
But we can keep trying. Didn't have to end this way. If he'd have just called CarShield before his car broke down.
Exactly.
CarShield has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau and was voted America's most trusted auto protection company. It's time to call CarShield now. Call 800-786-8390. 800-786-8390. Call 800-786-8390.
And it is the Cary Harrison Files, CaryHarrison.com. Opening up the phones at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. Don't forget, live streaming right now on, YouTube, Substack. I'm pausing because it's radio, and you're like, yes. Everything with a chip and a signal. Shortcut at kpfk.net. You can later listen as a podcast across every service, including kpfk.org. You can simply Google Cary Harrison, Cary, or the Cary Harrison Files. And don't forget our newsletter, where you get a full transcript. When you get the newsletter, it's in the upper right corner. Whole transcript of everything that's been said, including the delicious phonemes that we call phone calls incoming, i.e. yours. Plus stuff we can't say or write or verbally do on the radio. And that's CaryHarrison.com or GoHarrison.com. Well, the red light pops on, the theme music slinks out of the speakers like a cartoon snake charmer, and we have found ourselves once again seated in the velvet balcony of America's most magnificent political opera, an international drama that somehow manages to feel like a Saturday morning cartoon drawn by a defense contractor. There's a historian named Heather Cox Richardson who pointed out something important about this whole spectacle, in which 6 American soldiers recently returned home in flag-draped coffins after the military action against Iran. We can only call it an action. It's not even a war. If the Nuremberg trials were happening, if the Geneva Convention were still convening, if any of it. So who knows what to call this thing yet. But that ceremony, these ceremonies are called dignified transfers, when you bring back your own fallen. And they're quiet, formal rituals where the cost of war stops being theory and it shows up in wooden boxes. And there among the dignitaries stood our leadership, the really stable genius who was sporting a crisp white USA baseball cap. Not just any hat. This wasn't a dusty ranch hat from a John Wayne movie. This was a shiny campaign merchandise hat available for sale in his personal online store. So much for the Hatch Act. Presumably between the commemorative coffee mugs and the world-saving bumper stickers. Now, you might think wearing retail merchandise to a ceremony for fallen soldiers would cause a national case of heartburn, but that's only because you're stuck in what appears to be the boring old realism of the 20th century. Yeah, you're told you're obsolete. You are an anachronism. In this modern era, we're told that politics isn't just leadership, it's branding. It's not just strategy, it's content. And if you could slap a logo on it, even better. The folks over at Fox News apparently understood that the image of you-know-who wearing a crisp white baseball cap with USA on it that is for sale on his personal website, that might land like a whoopee cushion at a funeral. So when they aired coverage, they helpfully swapped in old footage of the really stable genius from years ago, like the first administration, and they had him hatless, they had him respectable, and merchandise free. Now, that in journalism is considered naughty. You're supposed to tell people that it's fake footage, which makes it ultimately fake news. If you have B-roll is what you call the actual footage from a scene. If you choose not to use your legitimate B-roll and use B-roll that's 6 years old, you need to say file footage or something. But if you just lie and change exactly what it looked like, well, that's just considered really naughty. Like really, really, really naughty. Yes. And when viewers noticed the little switcheroo, the network explained it. Oh, but it was an accident. Oh, it was an accident. Oh, which is believable if you also believe your dog accidentally ate your taxes or your dog accidentally ate your homework and the neighbor's lawnmower. The real footage, the hat, the merchandise, the whole patriotic fashion show never made it onto the screen. 818-985-5735. Those are your Harrison hotlines. 818-985-KPFK. Meanwhile, the official White House social media account has been presenting the war like a trailer for an action movie. Missiles launching, explosions blooming, dramatic music swelling, all spliced together with clips that look suspiciously like scenes from a video game, like Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto. For those of you who have kids or grandkids, or maybe you play it yourself, you're going to go, I've seen that exact scene before. Exact. That whole joystick and energy drink aesthetic. Supporters were even encouraged to jump into the comments and cheer like it's halftime at the Super Bowl, which makes sense if you think about it. In a cartoon universe, war is basically a boss level. Boom here, pow there, scoreboard lights up. Next round, even the commander-in-chief seems to be enjoying the production values.
Bing, 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 bum, bum, boom, boom, bing, 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 bing.
And the really stable genius asked a question that sounded less like a wartime briefing and more like a Vegas magician admiring his own card trick. Quote, "I hope you're impressed," he said. "How do you like the performance? How do you like it? Huh?" Now, that word tells you everything. Carl tried to ask about what happens next, regional fallout, escalation, the complicated grown-up stuff. Forget about next, came the answer. Forget about it. Which is roughly the same philosophy used by frat boys buying fireworks after midnight. Meanwhile, Miss Lindsey Graham popped up on morning television sounding like a man who just discovered the world's most enthusiastic pinball machine. "We're marching through the world," he said, laughing, "cleaning out the bad guys." According to him, his whole operation is Ronald Reagan plus. Iran's going down. Cuba might be next, he says. It's like a geopolitical sequel franchise. The imagery driving a lot of modern right-wing politics didn't come from policy papers or diplomatic theory. It came from, ready for this? It came from cowboy television shows. What, you're saying? Well, as I have a sip of coffee. Back in the 1950s, American TV was packed with Westerns, with lone heroes in white hats riding into dusty towns to deliver justice with a revolver and a smirk. 26 Westerns on television when most of you were born. Some of you were kids. A week later, top 10 were cowboy dramas. It's a simple message, isn't it? A good man with a gun and a white hat gets to ignore the rules, skip the paperwork, and fix the world. Government regulations, those are for weaklings. How many Netflix movies do you watch right now that are in front of you where 100% of the time we don't do the rules, we break the law, we don't use warrants, we just bust in and blow away whoever we want because we're the good guys? And that's just the way it is. And we're like so used to it. Due process? Well, that's for sissies. You just ride in, blast the villains, tip your hat, and collect the applause. And that fantasy is seeped into politics like barbecue sauce into a cheap suit. And now, decades later, you're watching the fully animated version of it on your own TV. It's a cowboy president. A cowboy president. Yes, the villainous foreign enemy out there, whoever it is, a cheering crowd, the explosions timed perfectly between commercial breaks. Except reality doesn't behave like a cartoon storyboard. Oil tankers carrying about 20% of the world's supply are now avoiding the Strait of Hormuz. Oil prices are jumping. Gasoline shot up 14% last week. Diesel for trucks, jet fuel for planes, tractor fuel for farms. If you like to eat food, tractor fuel for farms. Everything nudging higher, which means the cartoon soundtrack fades out and suddenly you're staring at the gas pump like it just insulted your mother. And The leadership addressed this economic hiccup with a breezy confidence of a man who's never had to choose between groceries and gasoline. Higher oil prices, he said, are a very small price to pay for safety and peace. The only fools would think otherwise, of course. Meanwhile, war itself is burning money at roughly $1 billion a day. We know it's 59 million, but when you add up not just the boats floating around in the water there, but the troops have to eat food. They wear vests. There's electricity. There's satellite dishes. You have no idea what these bases. They're gigantic cities, movie theaters. All of it comes out to about $1 billion a day. And the funny thing about that number, last year, lawmakers insisted there was absolutely no money left for healthcare programs or food assistance. Just like we were talking about earlier. Budget crisis, they said, hard choices, tough love. Now, suddenly the Treasury has found $1 billion a day in the couch cushions. And we know who likes couch cushions, don't we? Because when the cowboy show starts, the cash register opens like a Vegas jackpot. And the cartoon is getting darker around the edges. A U.S. submarine torpedoed an Iranian warship in international waters, one that wasn't even engaged in combat. More than 100 people aboard were pulled from the seas. Defense officials bragged about it. Another early strike might have hit a girls' school in southern Iran. Now, not a controversial concept. It has now been proved. What does the hemisphere called Europe and other parts think of all of this? You don't get to know. But they're, well, maybe not as on board. Not that anyone is on board, but you're told you're on board. War always is something around which you have no choice but to be on board because you never get to vote for it. And that brings us back to the quiet ceremony yesterday. 6 coffins, 6 lives, 6 reminders that cartoons eventually collide with gravity. And after the really stable genius spoke to reporters, he said, I hate to do it, but it's part of war. It's the sad part, the bad part, which is true. The bad part is always the moment when the cartoon fades out and the real world walks onto the stage. And here we are. 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. Those are your Harrison hotlines. Let's go first to Ted in LA. Ted, you're on the Cary Harrison Files. Welcome.
Good morning, brother. God bless you. Thank you for your service. It takes a lot of guts to get up and talk in front of anybody. So, at any rate, I just wanted to touch base. Did you feel it was a worthy cause to go after the Nazis? Because we have Jewish people that are being attacked by Islam. Did you think that was worthy, or are they down on the same level?
It's really a kind of what I would say, Ted, to answer your question. Those are entirely different things. Wouldn't you agree?
Really?
Wouldn't you agree?
Sure. I grew up with black people. I'm from LA. I'm a white guy that played on all black football teams. Yeah. I grew up around gangs. And everything you're saying, you're spoon-fed. You're a spoon-fed person, brother. You don't know anything about nothing, dude. You're a hypocrite, and you're unsaved. You're unsaved, but I pray for you in Jesus' name.
Don't hang up. You're going to hang up because you think you just said something
deep.
No, I'm
not. I won't.
Okay, so why don't you explain to me why it is... No, explain why it is exactly the same thing. The Nazi Third Reich rising as it did, conquering all parts of Europe, and us going in to stop them, why it is the same thing as a sudden, urgent assault on Iran. Sudden.
Because the people have been oppressed. People have been oppressed, and we did it to them, and we need to fix it now. They've been oppressed since 1979. They have people that are forced to wear I guess you want your family to wear Burmas in the United States, so keep voting that way.
These are these leaps of logic you go to, like you go right, like 40 miles to the right and to the left. Let's just stay right in the center and talk about what we're talking about, okay? So you feel that bombing civilians in Iran, that you think they're going to rise up, that they've been bombed to smithereens, and now they have so much energy and passion, they're going to rise up and overthrow their government. Why haven't in this country people risen up and overthrown their government if they disagree? Please explain that part, because that's what everyone wants to know.
Look, brother, all you need is one person to set
Just answer the question. Just answer the question. You take away people's food, their SNAP, their Medicaid, all their benefits. You take it away. They should be so angry. They should rise up and take over. Why have they not done it? Why has Congress not responded? Go ahead and answer that. You are the expert, my friend. You understand exactly human nature like nobody else. You are a genius, my friend. Your IQ is floating around 145 plus. Look at you, vibrating with anticipatory understanding and knowledge about the human condition, how the animal works. Go ahead and explain why nothing, flatline, zero has happened here. And the very government meant to represent those very people has done nothing and is about to write bigger checks. Go ahead and explain why nothing has happened. If you punish, starve, beat, and brutalize people, remove democracy, take away any opportunity for range of motion, why people don't just rise up. Suddenly strong. Sure, they haven't eaten for weeks. Sure, they're missing legs and arms. Sure, they're being occupied. But what a great opportunity to have a fiesta and rise up and overthrow your government. Explain to us why we haven't seen that there, why we haven't seen that here, why we haven't seen that in Cuba.
They have no guns. They can't defend themselves like you want to do.
That's the problem. That's the problem. So I should take my 12 gauge shotgun, run out in the middle of the street, and which I could in Florida, and just start shooting, maybe into crowds. Or do you have an exact target you would recommend where I have 2 shells?
Yeah.
You're great, Ted. You're great. I love you. And I do thank you for your call. Thank you so much. That opens up a line at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. Let's go next to Dave in Venice. Dave, you're on the Cary Harrison Files. Welcome.
Hi, good morning, Jerry. I had to follow that guy. Okay, but anyway, Cary, Jerry Harrison he rocks. So do you. I just wanted to say that we should get out of the UN, get the UN out of New York, because Trump is just blocking people from coming to speak what they need to say there. So I believe that it should move back to The Hague, and even if it's temporary, I think they just think this is some temporary thing. But anyway, I wanted to just say that if you're tired of it, and if you just got to listen to Willie Nelson. If you're tired of it, vote him out. If you don't like him, vote it out. Vote him out. So that's what I would say. And I wish everybody would come out for the end of the month, 28th, that we're going to have No Kings. And I believe it's going to be one of the biggest that we've seen to date. So get your signs ready. And the other thing I want to say is anybody that can hear me, please check your voter registration. Please do that. Tell your friends in all the red states and everything to get their voter registration ready. So, there's no disappointment. We know there is going to be. They're trying to disenfranchise everybody. So, I enjoy your show. I don't think like that guy that was before me. Yeah, we're from Venice. So we don't agree with any of that. So.
Bless you, Dave. I appreciate your call. Thank you so much. And Dave is right. In many states, a lot of red states particularly, the supervisor of election is now mailing a little postcard that looks like spam. It looks like trash. It's not well printed. It looks like a cheap advertising mailer. And that postcard says on the back in small writing that if you don't mail it back to the supervisor of elections, you don't actually live at your address. That this is the way that you're confirming that you're a real person because of the voter fraud by the tens of millions. So you have to sign it and attest that it is you and then mail it back. Mail it back to the supervisor of elections. So one, I don't know how many people look at these at stuff you get in snail mail too. You better have a stamp. You better have a stamp. And if you don't, you're going to have to go to the post office and physically mail it, which means you're going to have to leave work in the middle of the day. Oh, your boss says you can't leave work or you lose your job. You're walking off the job. You see how things are sutured together. 818-985-KPFK. We're next, and we're not going to do it right this second because we're going to pause for a moment. But when we return, we're going to hear from Horace in Inglewood, plus others at 818-985-KPFK. Those are your Harrison hotlines as we continue talking about this unfolding thing, the nexus between you and it. And is it a bill that you really want to pay? Well, more to come.
Smells like fish.
Tastes like chocolate.
It's the Cary Harrison Files. CaryHarrison.com.
How'd it happen?
She showed up dead on arrival.
This never gets easier.
It does when you call CarShield before your car breaks down. Look at these prices. The camshaft, transmission, engine.
Don't people know? A plan through CarShield could protect up to 5,000 parts and systems.
You hate to see it.
An out-of-warranty car is going to break down eventually.
Right, which is why they need a plan through CarShield.
Best of all, you'll get access to CarShield's concierge service, who can even help you find a mechanic near you.
They're notifying the family.
Poor guy. He doesn't even know what's coming.
Another victim of senselessly expensive repair bills. Can't save them all.
But we can keep trying. Didn't have to end this way. If he'd have just called CarShield before his car broke down.
Exactly.
CarShield has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau and was voted America's most trusted auto protection company. It's time to call CarShield now. Call 800-786-8390. 800-786-8390. Call 800-786-8390.
Cary Harrison Files, CaryHarrison.com, reminding you that we are live streaming right now on anything with a chip and a signal. You can simply go to, you can Google Cary Harrison, C-A-R-Y, Substack, or YouTube, or go to kpfk.net. That is your video streaming shortcut. Don't forget to get our newsletter at CaryHarrison.com. There we're going to have a full transcript, which you'll see in the upper right-hand corner. You'll be able to read, especially Ted's delicious call. And I think it's important that people like Ted get a voice. And I know, Ted, you're listening to me right now, and there's steam coming out of your ears and you're just going out of your mind, Ted, because you know the truth, don't you, Ted? You know the truth. And in the brain, and they've done brain studies, and this is the material that I love. The amygdala is really hyper vigilant in the brain. So this is the red alert button that's built. It's the size of an almond. It's in your brain. And some of us live constantly in this red alert, red alert. Anytime there's a boogeyman, anytime we're told there's a threat, kill it. Then find out what it wanted, but just kill it. And that's okay. It's the human condition. It's not like you're right, I'm wrong. It's just the way your brain is built, and there's nothing we can do about it. And the rest of us have brains that we have more executive functioning. We're able to filter thoughts. We're able to make decisions. We're able to even overwhelm our own instincts. Imagine you want to get laid. You can say no, or you can rape the kitty cat. You know, we can overwhelm our own appetites. Some of us can. Some of us cannot. And so we get a free pass. They get a free pass. This is, by the way, why we have laws. Yeah. It's not for the people who have executive reasoning and are able to overwhelm their instincts and appetites. It's for the people who cannot. So you create laws which hopefully they can understand. And if they break them, they go bye-bye. And that handles that problem. The rest of the people are able to make nice. They're able to share their toys in the grocery store. They're able to park in the spot between the lines. They're able to help old ladies. They're able to pick up after themselves on the sidewalk. And then there are people who cannot and who will not. They just cannot. So there are laws about littering for them, not for the others. It's pretty interesting indeed. And Ted, you're going to maybe need therapy, but we don't know that talk therapy would actually manage it. So you may have to do something deeper. ketamine therapies in doses that are pharmaceutical, that is, not on your own. Maybe even electroshock therapy. Okay, enough of that. Let's go to Horace from Inglewood. You're on the Cary Harrison Files. Welcome.
Hey, welcome everybody. This is my voice. Hello, hello. I just want to give a shout out to Ping from China. He's offered to give those families that were victims of that tomahawk killing $200,000. You know, and it's a shame when you got a senator from Louisiana, Senator Kennedy. He's saying it was a mistake. You know, it was a mistake. It wasn't intentional. But our administration won't even, give these people enough respect to apologize and say it was a mistake. You know, we got so much going on nowadays where, we kind of develop a cognitive dissonance to our humanity. We shouldn't be like that. Those were people, those were families. And it's shameful that we couldn't step up before the Chinese and say, hey, man, we made a mistake. We're going to compensate you people. We apologize and just move forward. So that's all I want to say. There's some hope in the world. There's some goodness in the world. It ain't from us right now, but it's out there.
And you're the voice of it. So I am happy to hear it, my friend. Thank you so much, Horace from Inglewood. Very much appreciate your call. That opens up a Harrison hotline at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. Let's say hi to Kevin from Mission Viejo. You're on the Cary Harrison Files. Welcome.
Cary, thank you so much. Very happy Friday to each and everyone. It's such a beautiful, informative show that you do every Friday and educate people like Ted. Ted has his head up his rear end and he has better to shut the front door because he doesn't know what he's talking about. I was growing up over there and they just killed last week schoolgirls, innocent schoolgirls. And he's talking about not having Iranian people having guts. Again, he doesn't know anything about the history of Iran, especially what happened during Mossadegh and he was overthrown. People like him, he says he was growing up with gang. Well, guess what? The gang mafia is running this country right now. Having to join them. Just want to say this and thank you very much. Cary.
Thank you, my friend. Very much appreciate it. I wonder if we have enough time for one more. We've got about 4 minutes. So possibly if we can squeeze one in. I want to give a shout out to Renee Yawarski, who is our technical director, and also my emotional coach and in-house counsel. She is quite brilliant. And because of her, I've been able to descend a whole testicle. Because I'll tell you what, it is scary doing this stuff during these times. But a brave, strong woman behind you is sometimes, and I'm admitting it, what a man needs, especially this man. So I am very, very lucky. Yes, 1 testicle. 2 would be maybe a little much, but one is enough. In fact, if Congress descended 1, things would be entirely different, wouldn't they? They sure would. And also, do we have Will today in the control room at KPFK? If we do, I want to give you a shout out too. Thank you so much for being able to bring the phone calls on so clearly and the great countdowns and cues, all of that technical stuff of which there are millions of moving parts as I come to you live from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico today, a week after the cartels blew the place up. So I'll have some interesting information about that next time. But as the world unfolds the way it does, I really want to thank all of you for joining me and allowing us to parse this together, to deconstruct it, to reverse engineer what's going on so that you and I can see the moving parts as they spin and not get overwhelmed by propaganda, nonsense, and TV. So there's way much more to do. This is, in fact, university level, what we do together. And I'm not doing it alone, and you're not doing it alone, and you are not alone. So for every number of calls that come in, and we've received, I don't know, what do we take today? 5, 6? That means there are going to be 500,000 other people out there who wouldn't pick up the phone. We just know this from radio. It just, these proportions work like that. And so that means in agreement are going to be 500,000 people. And then in podcast, when it goes onto Spotify or audiobooks or whatever, or YouTube as a video, there are going to be more and more. So you are not alone. You're not crazy because you see it for what it is. You just haven't had a chance to have proper input. So that's what we do here. I hope you get the newsletter at caryharrison.com or goharrison.com, and there you'll get a full transcript, including Ted's delicious call and everybody else's even more delicious calls after that. And I look forward to seeing you next week. And I'm in love with you, so wear pants.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? Well, you call low-cost airlines because they specialize in cheap flights, in discount hotel rooms, in cheap car rentals, and with the best price guarantee. Often 75% off. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? Well, you call low-cost airlines because they specialize in cheap flights, in discount hotel rooms, in cheap car rentals, and with the best price guarantee. Often 75% off. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795.
How'd it happen?
She showed up dead on arrival.
This never gets easier.
It does when you call CarShield before your car breaks down. Look at these prices. The camshaft, transmission, engine.
Don't people know? A plan through CarShield could protect up to 5,000 parts and systems.
You hate to see it.
An out-of-warranty car is going to break down eventually.
Right, which is why they need a plan through CarShield.
Best of all, you'll get access to CarShield's concierge service, who can even help you find a mechanic near you.
They're notifying the family.
Poor guy. He doesn't even know what's coming.
Another victim of senselessly expensive repair bills. Can't save them all.
But we can keep trying. Didn't have to end this way. If he'd have just called CarShield before his car broke down.
Exactly.
CarShield has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau and was voted America's most trusted auto protection company. It's time to call CarShield now. Call 800-786-8390. 800-786-8390. Call 800-786-8390.